Well, the dispute between the UK and France over a few dozen fishing licenses is of course completely unnecessary. President Macron and Prime Minister Johnson know this, but they need each other as opponents. In relationships, it can sometimes take time to figure out why you no longer trust each other. That's not necessary in the relationship between France and Great Britain. The trigger for the Franco-British alienation is pretty clear. It's Brexit. Even if, since the referendum on the British exit from the EU, both sides have repeatedly asserted that they want to remain friends, they could only be opponents in the Brexit negotiations. Well, 5 years after the referendum, that hasn't changed much. While there's a trade deal between the EU and the UK, Boris Johnson still has to prove that Brexit is a success. It's up to Emmanuel Macron to do the opposite. So, there is a British Prime Minister and a French President facing each other who are not very interested in approaching each other, because both of them use their rivalry primarily domestically. They show it off in a demonstrative way. And so a dispute over fishing rights after Brexit is turned into a fight for national identity. It doesn't matter that it's only about a few dozen licenses that are, as fishing always was, of little economic importance. For Johnson and Macron, one thing above all else is important. They can use this foreign policy conflict as an instrument for their own ends. In the British Prime Minister's Conservative Party, Brexit is still the guarantee of cohesion. Unlike climate targets or corona measures, Johnson can unite his Tories behind him when he goes into the Brexit fight against the French. Macron also uses the resentment of his compatriot when he accuses the English of breaking the Brexit treaty in the fisheries dispute. The president has to rebut the argument of the French far right, who claimed that the British won the Brexit battle, which is definitely not the case, and pretend that France's future is best outside the EU anyway. Oh no. It looks like Brexit is likely to play one role or another before the French presidential election in the spring. But despite all the mistrust that has built up between Johnson and Macron in recent years, the two have to be careful not to overdo it. I know Johnson is good in overdoing, but still. It's not easy after all. Both men are very confident of themselves. So you can be prepared for completely unnecessary provocations to continue. And Frost is in the game as well. In London, for example, it's not forgotten that Macron publicly discredited the corona vaccine from the British-Swedish manufacturer AstraZeneca during the peak of the pandemic. And in Paris, people still turn up their noses at Johnson, who dismissed Macron's grudge against the AUKUS military alliance between Australia, Great Britain and the USA with the words, "Donnez-moi une brique." Well, Boris Johnson and Emmanuel Macron are definitely not going to leave themselves alone. They can't do that either, after all, they're neighbors. And as such, despite all the historically grown rivalries of their nations, they must not forget one thing. The stability of the West depends not least on London and Paris pulling together with the rest of the EU. Hopefully in the same direction someday again. And I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.